We currently have Geraldo here, Cara here, Mickey here, Tony here, Assistant Corporation Brian is here. And think that about covers it. Am I missing anybody?
You're here.
Ah, yes, Michael
very
is here
good.
as well. Thank you, Mickey, appreciate that. Clearly only partially here. So do we have any public participation?
Not seeing any.
Perfect. Then we will go into the March minutes. Take a minute to review.
So who's the first person that's going to jump on this beside me? I'm referring to the minutes of the City of Bridgeport's Board of Ethics.
Whoops.
At the top of page 1.
On the bottom of page 1 and bottom of page 2.
Hold on.
Well, it's also
I'm
at the
going
top.
to
That's also at the top.
share the screen so everyone can see it. So you guys can tell me the changes that you want to make and I will make them on the screen. And then I will send them over to be, after you guys vote on them, I'll send them over to be reposted as final and they can remove the draft. So tell me,
Yeah, so right at
what did you
the
guys
top
find?
top line.
City of Bridgeport, we're obviously not the City of Bridgeport, we're the City of Norwalk.
And then it'll also, that's everywhere. So it's at the bottom of the page too, at the footer.
Yeah, while you guys are talking about the other ones, if I look, I'll do a Control F search for Bridgeport and just.
Yep, no
fix
problem.
them.
I do like referring to everybody as a commissioner. It sounds real official.
I missed the last meeting, so I guess I wasn't sworn in yet as a commissioner, so I don't know.
Do commissioners get paid? Do commissioners get paid?
Yes.
Yeah.
An
$50 a
admiration,
meeting.
good feeling, goodwill.
Yeah,
All
$50.
right, so
a
we
meeting.
fixed all the Bridgeports. What else do you guys have?
My name is actually spelled incorrectly. That should be IE instead of EI.
Oh, Nora's here.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, Nora. All right, fixed.
Thank you.
Yep.
There's 2 IEs.
Yep.
I move that the minutes be approved.
So Nora has joined us. I know we heard from her, but just so the record is clear, Nora has joined us here. So welcome. Newly sworn in,
Indeed.
right?
Saw Donna today.
And the sun is shining on her.
It is. I need to adjust that.
Do we have a second? Take a moment if you need.
Is there a woodpecker out here somewhere?
Me typing an email asking them to post these minutes once you approve them.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Mickey will abstain because he wasn't at the last meeting.
That's true. I forgot.
Excellent. Well, then we can go to old business. And hopefully, potentially, the final time we'll be reviewing the Citizen's Guide in this go-around.
So thank you to Cara for taking a look at it after I typed it. 1, and 2, thank you for putting back in all of the cool graphs and charts. that we had. Otherwise, it would not look nearly as interesting.
So Brian asked for help from IT to put in the city seal. And then we had to figure it out from there because when Brian put it in, it was a little too dark. So then I helped him fade it out so that you could see the text. And then I had to rebuild the charts because Murphy's Law was in full effect and I couldn't paste them. So I had to rebuild them and I changed the color to green. And Brian retyped the whole document into Word. So he's my hero.
Oh, boy. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, I needed a break from some of the other stuff that I was doing. So it was a good time, well-timed break. Let's put it that way.
I will give you credit the fact that you consider that a cathartic break. Appreciate
Really?
it.
Much more fun than what I was otherwise doing.
That could be understood.
All right, so those are approved. I made the changes. So those will be going over to be posted hopefully soon, and replace the draft ones that are up there that say City of Bridgeport. Yep. Okay, so that's done.
Aside from the graphics, was there any final thing that needed to be signed off on or approved?
Did anyone see any typos that Brian missed or I missed?
I'm just have a question. I'm looking at are we talking about the Citizens Guide now, by the way?
Yes, Citizens Guide.
Okay, if you
I'll put it up on the screen so everyone can see it.
if you go to page 16,
16, hold on.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm probably going to ask a silly question. And you finish 16 and you flip to 17. I don't get what that is there, that number
Okay.
4.
Okay, so basically, what's going to be attached after we finalize all this is I'm going to print out a copy of the Code of Ethics off of our city website, and I'm going to download it in Word format and then cut and paste it in at the back of this document so that people who have the Citizens Guide would have a copy of the city code, the updated city code, the finalized city code, so that they don't have to go look for it. So it's right here. So they can go take a look at it as they're looking through this document.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So Cara is correct. The IT department was kind enough to help me get the seals up. And when I put the seal in, it was like a dark green, and it was blocking some of the writing. So I don't see the seal here. I know there were other seals that they provided that were kind of like a light gray. So maybe when we're done, if everyone's okay with this language, or if there's more changes that had to be made for the next meeting, I might try to play with it and see if I can insert the light gray city seal in here and see if it's even visible. And if it is, whether that's something that you guys would like.
Well, the seal that's on the attached PDF that you emailed us,
Yes,
I'm good with.
I see it.
Hold on. Let
It's
me.
a light-
I have that as well. Let me get up the. I pulled that up. I have the. You know what it was? I had the Word document up, so maybe it showed up in the.
I think it depends on the settings on your computer screen as to how.
That's probably why I don't see it. All right. So as long as it's there, I mean, I don't need to see the city seal, but as long as it's there, I'm fine with that. We can always toy with that later if people want. But anyway, so this is the document that was sent to you guys. This is in Word format. So if there's any changes that you guys want to make, I can make them right here. And then if there are changes to be made, I'll make them, and then I'll email it back out to everyone so they have another chance to take a look at it before the next meeting, unless y'all think it's good, and then we'll finalize it tonight. In which case I will still send you out the finalized version again. So everyone has, since everyone's been working on this for like 5 years, that you can put it up as a trophy on your wall or something like that, that you completed this Herculean task.
Page 5.
Page 5, hold on.
Oh, no, I got the answer to my question.
Oop.
Top of page 5. But I already answered my question, but I'll point out what I was looking at.
Sure, hold on. Bear with me 1 second, hold on. Top of page 5, you said?
Yep. Second line. So I saw number 11 and I was like,
Oh.
what order is
Oh,
that
because
in?
it's
But
1 through.
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's I figured that out after I said it, but I just figured I'd point that out since I started.
Yeah.
Here's a
Um,
question.
Go ahead, Nora.
On page 3, the first page of the introduction,
yeah,
this guide provides general information to the public and to the city of Norwalk's employees, contractors, and officers.
where's this?
The very
No,
top.
First
in the
paragraph,
paragraph.
page 1,
Yeah.
introduction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Contractors. Does this in fact apply to all of the city's contractors?
First paragraph, third line.
I'm gonna have to go to the, hold on, I have to stop sharing the screen. I have to go to the definitions that are within the code of ethics and see what it would apply to. That's a good point.
And it very well maybe that should. I just want to double check because I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I'm gonna go right now to the definitions right now, and I'll read you all the ones that, you know, theoretically could apply. So let's see, we have agency and clear and convincing evidence, which do not. Employee is an individual employed by the city or any of its agencies. Here, let me put it up on the screen so everyone can see it as I'm reading it. I had to go find it, so. An individual employed by the city or any of its agencies, whether as a classified employee, unclassified, permanent or temporary, full-time or part-time employee, or individual employed by contract or on a continuing basis, all employees of the Norwalk Public School System. So I don't believe that would fit that definition. Individual is a natural person. Officer is a person who's elected or appointed. Ordinance list employees are non-union employees, such as the Deputy Corporation Counsel. So the answer is no. I don't believe that contractors would be subject to this. They're subject to other areas of our ordinances, but I don't believe they're subject to this.
Well, but an independent contractor would be subject to agency rules under the common law. They could be considered an agent of the city if they're a contractor working on a contract.
Right.
By contract. I mean, that's
Yeah,
basic.
I interpreted that not as like a building contractor or a plumbing contractor. I interpret the word contractor as somebody that, well, I have to use the word, has a contract with the city for maybe
Right.
a 6-month period or a 1-year period to do something.
Right.
Well, so if we're considering keeping it under that notion, if you look at section A, it says, if you look at the first and second line, requires that all city officers and employees, whether elected or appointed, etc., we're not putting contractor. I'm pretty sure, and if Brian, maybe if you do a quick search, a find, did we use contractor anywhere else in the language here?
Look,
Thought I recall him saying that. I can't remember where, but I thought we did.
There's the employed by contract, which I understood.
right. So contract shows up 12 times. So let's just use contract because it's a little bit, you know.
Yep, that's fine.
Deal.
Go
So we have
ahead.
that one. It's not applicable. This is for the conflict of interest. This is about people who may enter into contracts with the city. But this is an officer or employee.
But I guess my point is, if somebody has a contract to do work for the city, they, under rules of agency,
Mhm.
could be considered
Yeah.
an employee for the
A
purpose
representative.
of that contract. It depends on who controls the means and the methods of the work, so it could apply to them. It depends on
I'm
their
not-
relationship to the city.
I'm not saying it couldn't. What I'm specifying in this case is for the Citizens Guide is outlining what we have in the code itself. And if the word contractors isn't used in the code itself, it may not be the right place to use it in this first paragraph. Not saying it's not applicable under how you're viewing it. And again, I'm thinking out loud, that's not a decision.
Well, and I think to some extent, the way that you're using it, Cara, is covered in the definition of employees, right? Because an individual with a contract. So I mean, I hear the concern, I hear what you're saying, but I'm worried that this creates more confusion. I mean, to Mickey's point, does this lead everyone to think that who's called in for a plumbing job, that they are bound by this?
Okay, well then take it out.
Yeah,
And I would think, Brian, I'm sure you can comment on this. I would hope that contracts between the city and, contractors that are substantial enough to generate agency issues would spell out within the contract itself. And if not, maybe that's a conversation that should be had as to how the city is informing its contractors that we have a code of ethics. And
yes. So what I can tell you is that I don't really do any of the transactional work for any of these contracts. But what I would say is that Assistant Corporation Counsel Callahan, who does a lot of it, is very mindful of the responsibilities that we have when we enter into contracts. That being said, I will raise this issue with him and advise that perhaps there should be some language inserted into some of these contracts where it's applicable, that these people bidding on these jobs understand that there is a code of ethics and that they're going to be held to that code while they're performing those jobs. That being said, as we take a look through the code, typically the way that the code itself is discussing these issues is when some outside contractor has obtained a job because they know somebody, and so who works within the city as an officer or an employee. And so if somebody raises a complaint, the way that I've seen it raised in the code of ethics would be that the officer or the employee who assisted in getting that contract would be the ones that would be subject to that. That being said, I mean, that's just me thinking off the top of my head of probably the most simple situation where an officer or employee would be responsible in that situation under the code, but perhaps not the person who won the bid, so to speak. I don't know if there's other issues that you guys are thinking of specifically, but that was the one that I was thinking of. And perhaps that isn't a great example where a contractor would be found to have violated the code. But perhaps a contractor who's working on the job and decides to take some piece of city property, whatever it might be. They decide to take a stapler home or something like that. That would certainly be something where I think they would be, besides stealing, I think it would be something where they might be subject to that, because I think there's something in the code that references, not improperly using city property, so to speak. Those are just two things that jumped out of my mind.
I would believe that the word contractor in this case often applies to client-facing contractor. So there's usually a difference between, the contractors that may come in to do a plumbing and it's just working within the confines of the city, as opposed to a hired, a temporary employer, which could be a professional employee working at dealing with clients. So they're facing the client that comes into City Hall deals with them and don't know that they're a contractor, and that in their work or under their contract, the services they're providing on behalf of the city, they really have to be in compliance with the code of ethics.
Right, so that would be perhaps a concern for personnel, the personnel department, you know, like for like, let's say like one of these temporary employees that you're referring to, it's really, it almost doesn't, it's almost like, I mean, it theoretically is a contractor, but it's somebody that's going to be there. So personnel and contracts between
And all I'm saying
city
is they're often
and contractor.
they're often distinguished
Go ahead.
by stating or listing them as a client-facing contractor as opposed to a regular contractor.
Brian, it really
yes.
depends on whether they fall under the rules listed in Bexenstein versus Potter and Carrier. That's the agency case. I mean, but we could take the word contractor out and just.
Yeah.
remove that, I think.
I think it's probably, I mean, we're again, this is basically a summary. It's telling people a summary of what we're talking about in the code. We're providing them with a copy of the code. So I think to the extent that we can, you know, not try to confuse people, it's probably helpful. What I'll do is I will reach out to our transactional attorney to make sure that he's making people aware that there is a code of ethics. Much like they would have to be made aware of, for example, the living wage ordinance or whatever it might be. I mean, there's all these ordinances that they might have to, that they're going to have to know of when they enter into a contract with the city. And then I could also reach out to personnel. I mean, it's been a while since I was hired here, but I distinctly remember them providing me with a document indicating that I had looked at all the appropriate, that I understood that I was going to be subject to certain rules and regulations when I started here. So I'm assuming that that's still going on, but I can double check.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oops, I lost it. Wait a minute. On page 10,
Okay. The chart, yep.
second paragraph.
Well,
Second,
it's the chart.
actually, I'm looking at my PDF here. I'm looking at page 10 on the counter.
Well,
So I look at,
Hold on.
it would be page
pull up
4 then.
the-
It would be page 4.
Page 4. Okay, hold on.
It would be page
I
4.
put the
Okay,
hold on.
yep,
Starts
go
with,
ahead.
starts with the top offices employees, but I'm in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second
Above
paragraph.
number one, conflicts of interest, influence, or interference with duties. Go ahead.
So I'm just wondering on the second paragraph, and it's more of a question,
hmm
where it says the state of Connecticut and its agencies may also have their own ethics policies, which in some cases differ from what it's to follow.
hmm
I'm just questioning the value of such point being made, although I understand there might be differences, but could it not also cause or beg the answer to be what may that be? And then which one supersedes the other? That's all I'm just merely asking. In other words, is such an introduction of such of a qualifying statement, how necessary is it? And does it beg, to bring other questions up?
It's a good point.
Because
Well, I think
whoever
I think
reads
the
that-
answer, Tony, to your question is that the state of Connecticut has delegated this responsibility to the municipalities to enforce it. I think this is more of an educational tool to let people know, because some people will Google and find the state code of ethics. So I think it was more along the lines to advise them that the state of Connecticut's code of ethics deals with state employees, and they're different than our own. But again, I can see how this might be confusing when we're talking about this citizens guide being a municipal code of a summary of a municipal code of ethics.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. And the question is, do we get that from that sentence? I don't know.
I mean, to Brian's credit, I had a client who had a complaint, an ethics complaint, in another municipality, who called me and had said, well, the state code says this, and I had to explain to the client that the state code doesn't apply. So there are people who are going to think that the state code does apply when it doesn't.
Maybe if we add a may in front of the differ, that signals that we're not specifying what the differences are, but just alerting them that they need to be, that they themselves need to investigate that possibility.
That they differ from what is to follow.
Are we good with that? Because I have another couple things.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, go ahead with your other couple things, Nora.
Section 3, employees, which starts on page 5 and runs on to page 6.
Employment.
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead.
You've got, I think it would make sense to have a heading C for nepotism.
Under there are also requirements to prevent the appearance of nepotism.
Right. So right before that, I think you should have, little c nepotism, just because otherwise it looks like that paragraph refers to subsequent employment.
Everyone okay with that before I do this?
I'm reading it.
Yes.
Yeah. I can see that.
Hold on. I'm going to remove track changes for a moment. Now I'm going to put them back on because otherwise it was going to mess up the formatting.
Good job. Nice workaround.
And Brian, you don't have to do it right now, but because you're doing that, you'll have
Yeah.
to double check the page numbers in the table of contents.
Yeah, that's page numbers in the table of contents. And then my other concern is it might mess up the, move the graphs off of line. So I'm gonna have to double check. I have to make sure that the graphs aren't moved offline after we make these changes. And then I will double check the table of contents, which you put together. I did not have the patience for that.
Next, Nora.
So actually, and I should have done it in order on the page above that, on page 5 in the gift section.
Which section?
In the
Yes.
gift section, yeah, when you go to line, the bullet that says discounts,
Yeah, discounts.
I think you need to move in the normal course of personal business into after obtained, because right now it looks like discounts obtained on the price of anything that's sold in the normal course of personal business. And so it looks like
All right, so read to me what you want.
I think-
Discounts.
discounts obtained in the normal course of personal business on the price of anything sold. Because the normal course applies to discounts, not to the things being sold.
Discounts obtained in the normal course of business on the price of anything sold, period.
Yeah. And then going back to page 6, sorry, under procurement.
That's all right.
Oh,
Procurement, yep.
Yeah, I think this is just I think just easier to read. So vendors and contractors who wish to do business, I think that should be with the city. Must comply, because otherwise it's unclear who you're doing business with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any changes besides Nora, which we have just completed her changes? And is everyone okay with those changes? Because I think we're gonna have to vote on those. Why don't we wait till the end and we vote on everything?
I just have perhaps a comment rather than a potential change. Maybe 50 years ago, if you asked somebody to put their name and address down on a piece of paper, they'd put their name in, 5 Main Street. And now, sometimes if you ask people their address, they'll give you their email address. So I'm wondering at the end where it says, somewhere toward the end, I forget exactly what page it's on, where they say that the complainant must sign this and state their address. Should we say home address or
Here.
Or their home address.
maybe that's
Address. Let's see how many times it shows up. We have email, so we have address and then we have email address here
that's good. That's excellent for that part.
first. My computer's freezing maybe. Okay. So we have addresses, so that's not an issue. And then addresses, so that's not an issue. So we have address and then we have email address right next to each other. So hopefully
That's
the
good.
people will read that. So then please provide the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of any witnesses. Do you think it would make sense to say, please provide the names, addresses, telephone numbers, and email addresses?
No.
Or
Their home address.
No.
This is where
And then it
Mickey's
says here-
talking about.
here, under
Home.
note?
Just say home address.
You could do
Yes.
that. That's reasonable. Home address. There we go.
by the way, on page 8,
Hold on.
this is nothing big actually, but just quiet.
You get
Uh-huh.
there. Page
They have
8.
D through, yeah, page 8 says D through F, right?
Hold on, I'm on
No,
7 now.
page 8 is D, E, and F.
D, right, D through F is what I meant.
Oh,
D-
yeah, sorry. Yep, go ahead.
And then on the bottom, I just wasn't sure, it says page intentionally left blank, but not really.
The rest of the pages, yeah.
I just wasn't sure what that,
Sure.
if that was more formatting, I don't know, maybe it was.
It
Well,
is.
the reason it's like that is because otherwise there's a giant gap and the graphics won't fit.
Okay.
So, you know, that's
It's
the only-
exactly what it says.
yeah.
Tony is saying it should say the remainder of the page is left blank.
That's what I was trying to say, yeah, because it's a little like, huh? I just caught, I caught it and I thought, I don't think it's big, but
It's something that a remainder of page left intentionally left blank. All right.
Right above that, in little e, there's just an errant comma after third party. Or next to any third party by you. You don't need that, yeah. Okay, I have a couple more nits. I'm really sorry, Brian.
No, that's okay.
Really
We want to
time.
make sure we get it. No, we want to make sure we get it right. Hold on, let me just pull it back up. Go ahead.
Sorry, on the table of contents.
Yep.
B, requirements for filing a complaint.
Yep.
There's a semicolon there, which is not consistent with how you've done it anywhere else. So should you take that out?
All right, hold on. I'm not going to put a. There we go. Okay. Right.
On page 4 in the prohibition of special consideration, this one actually may be substantive, so it's or
Page
not
4.
substantive, but
Where is this?
prohibition of special consideration.
Yep.
I just want to double check. Is it supposed to be that they should not grant or be given, or that like I'm trying, I can't remember now, and this is just my memory not being good. Are we trying to say both that they cannot receive it and they cannot give it, or are we only saying that they cannot receive a special consideration?
So
Read right now, it really only says that they can't receive it, and so I just,
we know what section they're talking about because I'm trying to pull up the code.
I think it would be 32.4 based on the section above, but I'm not 100% because I don't have my code in
Hold on.
front of me.
Let me see here. Hold on. So gifts is 32.8. That looks like, unless I'm on the wrong page now. No, I'm on the wrong page. Hold on. What page is this again? Oh, there it is. So it's above gifts. So that would be, yeah, it's under 32.4. So let's see what 32.4 says. Once I get to 32.4, I'll bring up the screen. Bear with me. All right, so they finally have 32.4 fixed in the code. So I'm just going to bring up, I have 32.4 on my screen. Everyone else is going to have we'll have the citizens guide in front of them. And I'm going to bring up the code so everyone can see both of them.
Right.
So this is the conflict of interest. So if somebody sees the area that we're referring to in this, just stop me. Grant by virtue of his or her office or position.
Yeah.
Is this what, number 7?
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So based on what you're seeing here in B7, is it consistent with what we have in the Citizens Guide, or is it inconsistent?
No, I think we need to clean it up. I think it's actually clearer in the code.
Hold on. Let me, I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second. I just want to make sure I found the right place. And let me just get back to 7. So now we have 7. Oh, that's it. Place again. Let me just get back to 7. So now I can share the screen because it'll have both of mine on the screen. All right. So we're talking about while in his or her official role for the city of Norwalk, officers should not be granted or given special consideration, and grant by virtue of his or her office or position of employment with the city any special consideration.
Right. So it should be grant or receive, because that's the code is grant or receive, and that's much clearer than it currently is in the Citizens Guide. So because right now it looks like they're both directed at them.
Sure, this is a combination of B7 and B8 is what you're saying.
Where, help me to find where I'm not finding receive on the code of ethics. Where is it?
Here's grant and here's
I see it.
receive.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Right.
So they're basically saying the exact same thing, except one's using grant and one's saying receive for the most part.
Right. And you need to change that so take out the not be granted, or officer shall not grant, not rather than be granted, but shall not grant, exactly. And we'll need to do the same above. I'm honestly not sure why it needs to be.
Shall not
Yeah, why do
grant.
you need to have 2 paragraphs? Why can't they just put the officers and employees? Or
Yeah.
employees? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can simplify that too. Oh, I guess because we wanted to leave in the official role for the city of Norwalk part of it.
Yeah.
But do we really need that in the Citizens Guide? I think it might be fine to just combine them.
So just have them at the end of public, just have officers shall not.
Well, you could just say employees and officers shall not grant or receive.
Well, because, all right. So we're going to get rid of because one of them is talking about employment, the other one's talking about their official role. So the officers, such as the elected officials, are not employees. And so I think that's why we separated them into.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I guess they're saying 2 different things, so it's important.
I see that now. Yep, that's the reason.
However, the change that Nora suggested, I think cleans up those sentences a little bit to make them clearer. So.
Well,
Yes.
so a couple things though. One is that I actually think this refers to language that we ultimately ended up taking out, because the definition of employees and officers covers this question of, while in the official role or being in employment, like I think we changed, I think this language might be old from the previous code, because I think that's how we ended up with 7 and 8, was cleaning this up in the code section. I could be wrong, but that's because I mean, all of this stuff applies to officers in their official role for the city of Norwalk, right?
So what we could do is we could get rid of while in employment of the city of Norwalk and just say officers and or employees shall not grant or give special consideration. We could just do that.
Right.
If everyone's okay with that. Before I do this, is everyone okay with that change?
Yes.
So it would read officers and or employees shall not grant or give special consideration, treatment, or advantage to any person beyond that which is generally available to the public. And then we still have to change it to shall not grant or receive?
Receive.
Yes.
So it would have to be changed to receive. Okay, so it would have to be receive up here. Receive, get rid of give. This. While in employment of the city, so we don't need that either. Officers and employees shall not grant or receive special consideration, treatment, or advantage to any person beyond that which. So is everyone okay with the changes that were made to subsection 1A?
Yeah, I like that because it condensed it. So.
Okay. Any other changes, Nora?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm a pain. I apologize. The editing is too much.
Go ahead.
So page before that, bottom of page 3.
Go ahead.
Yep, the proper operation of the city of Newark requires that all cities, officers, and employees, and there's a semicolon. And I think that what that really should maybe be is a parentheses around elected, appointed, paid, or unpaid, rather than a semicolon there. And you could probably, yeah, exactly. I think that's easier to read, and I'd take that, yeah. And then I think my last one is on page 15.
15. I went too far.
Yeah,
okay.
On number 5. So all the rest of them end with semicolons, and number 5 ends with a period. So I would make number 5, I just would make it end with a semicolon so it's consistent.
Yep. Done.
Thank you, Brian.
No problem. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other changes? I'm going to make this big screen now if it'll let me. There we go.
For the changes that we have made, can we have a motion to approve them?
So moved, Murphy.
Just a question before we vote on this, on the page 1, which is the cover page.
Yes.
Is that date okay to leave it at March 31st?
I switched it to April 22nd because those are the changes that we're making today. But quite honestly, I think that whenever you guys formally approve the code, I think we should probably have approved on, maybe we should have approved on, and then whatever the date is.
That's good.
That's approved on, and just, maybe I'll just leave it blank for now. Leave it like that.
Yep.
That's good.
We can always insert the date. So maybe what I'll do is, just so we know, because I'm going to forget at some point. All right. And I'll highlight it in yellow so that it stands out.
I'll accept the friendly amendment to my motion with that change. So we need a second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So just the changes, any other changes that are made would be to, any other changes that would be made to the table of contents in case some of these pages have been moved to a different page based on amendments that were made tonight. And if that's the case, then those changes, those numbers will be redlined so that you can see,
Adjusted, yeah.
they'll be adjusted in red lines so you guys can see those changes, and then they'll be hopefully approved at the next meeting.
And the same with the chart and whatnot down below, if anything was skewed.
Right, yeah, I'm gonna make sure that the chart remains on a page unto itself. Like it was before.
Including what Brian said, do we have a second to Carr's motion?
I think Tony seconded.
Yep,
Yeah,
sorry. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
I will, I'll work on this and get you guys out an updated copy with these, and basically the only other changes that will be made now will be to the table of contents and maybe formatting, if there's an issue on formatting, and that'll affect the table of contents only. And email it out to everybody in advance of the next meeting so everyone has another chance to review it prior to the May meeting, whenever that is.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you all. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you all.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
You too.
Aye.
Be safe.
Aye.